Hi, everyone, and welcome to the latest Simplify Consulting podcast. My name is Kate Montserrat. I'm director at Simplify Consulting. I'm joined by my fellow director, Carl Woodward, and lead consultants, Dom House and Jane Brown. Hello, everybody.
Okay.
Hello. We are talking about customer services today. So there was a really interesting article in Money Marketing questioning whether Consumer Duty has had an impact on customer service. And I think there was a really good quote in there from the FOS CEO that basically said complaints are still around poor customer service. And that really was echoed in our complaints white paper as well. So I guess we're talking today about the impact of Consumer Duty and customer service in general. So Dom, I'm going to come to you first. So what's your views in terms of whether Consumer Duty has actually changed the landscape for wealth firms in relation to customer service?
Yeah, so that's an interesting one. I guess in terms of the regulation, it should have changed because for the first time, really, firms were mandated that they had to deliver good outcomes via customer services. And that's much more holistic in its viewpoint than previous regulatory initiatives like treating customers fairly, etc. So, by definition, there should be a bigger mandate for firms to be looking at customer services and understanding how they're delivering good outcomes, avoiding harm, etc. The reality is that there probably hasn't been that much focus in customer service since the introduction of Consumer Duty. So you've seen the FCA taking some action in price and value areas, so exit fees, double dipping, etc. But so far, customer services hasn't really been the main focus, and probably because it's less tangible. It's probably got a longer implementation time, and that may be some of the reason why we haven't yet seen significant improvements within the customer services space. If you look at kind of complaints data, some of the outputs that FOS are highlighting, and what we saw in our white paper. I suppose my view is that the changes of Consumer Duty have started to change some of the conversation around customer service. So I think there has been a bit more of a challenge within firms to say, well, yeah, we kind of got through the initial stage of, what metrics should we use, what SLAs look like, etc. Fine, most of that was there to a certain extent anyway. But actually, where are the real challenges to delivering good outcomes within customer services? And I think a lot of senior leaders are looking at what they're producing in board reports and metrics and things for Consumer Duty and saying there are some really big pinch points here. So if you look at things like transfers, has really been some really interesting conversations happening around transfers in the wealth space recently, and how it's not delivering for customers, not only in terms of the time it takes and the communication around transfers, but also the fact that we don't do anywhere near enough in specie transfers, which inevitably means that customers are out of the market for much longer. And also look at things like channels and availability of services, the type of complaints that are coming through around errors and delays when they're putting requests through. I think people are having these conversations and saying, potentially as a result of Consumer Duty, but not exclusively as a result of Consumer Duty, we can do much better than this.
I think as well, just from our perspective, I think firms are viewing Consumer Duty almost from an external perspective. So externally, how their products and their fees and everything coming across, but perhaps not focusing internally. So looking at maybe some of the end-to-end processes and journeys and how that might then impact the customer. We obviously see a lot around numbers of handoffs and fragmented processes, which ultimately means that the customer service experience is poor because the customer should be getting something maybe quicker or more efficiently or better, rather than just, is the product priced fairly and are the fees fair, I suppose.
Yeah. And that's the challenge. having that holistic view of all of these things that make up
Yeah.
the customer experience comprise of, yes, the external stuff, but also the internal pieces of work as well. So firms need to embrace the idea of, end-to-end customer journeys. How does that look? Where are the handoffs? How are firms providing that information in the right way at the right time? All of that kind of good stuff. I think we're still some way away from kind of breaking down some of the old ways of working.
Definitely.
But I think firms are starting to look at that.
Mm. Thanks, Dom. And Jane, where do you see the biggest challenges for firms delivering on the consumer support outcome?
Yeah, so I think for me, there's probably three sort of main ones, but I guess some of you might have some additional ones, but probably having a multi-skilled workforce. So having people that are skilled across all of those customer journeys who can support the customer, whatever their query is and whatever sort of stage of the policy life they're in. So I think that's a big problem that we see at the moment, and also having the right channels and multiple channels that customers can interact with. Being able to react with SMS, WhatsApp, and being a bit more responsive that way can obviously respond quicker, avoids delays, and having them embedded in those customer journeys would be eradicate some of those challenges that we see with timescales and responses to customers. And then the third one, I think, is more around the operational metrics. So being able to be proactive to see where there are problems and react when there needs to be some continual improvements made, or making some changes so that that service can be upheld or improved. I think they're probably, for me, the three main challenges. Don't know if either of any of you have got any others that you'd add to that.
I think and I agree with your points. I think one of the other challenges they have is bringing all of those things together. So
Yeah.
getting a holistic view of customer service, of customer interactions, etc. across, obviously, usually we've got multiple systems in play. We've got multiple products, multiple, servicing models, etc. So firms being able to actually take all of that information, taking complaints, but also customer experience, interaction with digital channels, etc., and bringing that together so that they actually get a holistic view of customer service and where the areas they should focus on actually are.
And sharing the good things as well, where one area is excelling and doing something really, really well, don't work in silos, like share that across so that everyone's working in a consistent way, and the customer, like whatever interaction they're having, they're getting that consistent and high level of support throughout, regardless of what it is they're interacting with the firm for.
I think technology can play quite a key role in that as well, can't it? I know I don't want to throw AI in again. That's a big buzzword, isn't it? But as you said, Dom, like different systems, it's to pull some of this information all together and have that holistic view. But we've seen some examples of tools where AI can maybe add some prompts to the customer services representative to say, this person's actually called 10 times now. You might want to maybe be a bit more proactive with your contact with them or something like that to help them prevent a complaint or prevent, a poor experience. Thank you, Jane. Carl, I'm going to come to you now. So, do you think firms are prioritising their change initiatives and where they invest their money in terms of delivering improvements for customer service?
I think there's been a real shift as a result of Consumer Duty. So I think historically there might be a reference to the voice of the customer in a business case, in a assessment of return on investment. But I think historically firms have been very much focused on replacing legacy technology, being compliant, reducing the cost to serve, being as efficient as they can be, with perhaps a consequential impact to the customer experience being an added benefit. I think now, as a result of Consumer Duty, what we're seeing is much more focus on identifying how changes and improvements and enhancements transform the customer experience and do so in such a way that ultimately reduces the cost to serve, encourages loyalty in terms of retention of customers, gives colleagues a more empowered experience, whether they're in the contact center, whether they're in the back office, feeling like they own customer problems, we can resolve customer problems. And I think in how we now consider technology to be an enabler to enhancing some of those customer experiences, not just to reduce the cost to serve, but actually to encourage interactions with the customers. It's actually not a bad thing to be regularly speaking to your customers, getting feedback, engaging with them, cross-selling, upselling, using those moments of truth to actually drive retention and to drive growth. So I think Consumer Duty has been the real prompt and the real trigger to enable businesses to say, actually, if we do put the customer at front and center, not as a byproduct now of what we're trying to do to deliver another benefit, but the core outcome of what we're trying to do is to retain customers, to grow our relationship with them, to make them feel like a valued partner, and really retain some loyalty to our brand. I think it has so many ongoing benefits around reduced complaints, reduced errors, more effective revenue growth, greater profitability, that actually manifests itself in so many different ways. I think putting the customer front and center now is increasingly something we're seeing in how our clients approach change initiatives.
And I guess a follow-up question to all of you is, we obviously work a lot in operations and with customer service functions. How have we engaged with firms to help deliver better outcomes within customer services? Jane, I'll come to you first.
Yeah, so a lot of the work we do is around doing some current state analysis. So looking at not only process, but risk and controls, operational structure, the way the firm's organized, skills and capabilities within the organization, what support and metrics are available, like we discussed in when I answered my first question, and sort of really getting into a deep analysis state of the current state. And then working through how all of those things can be improved and optimized, and that might be looking at the people, might be looking at process, or it might be looking at technology and how that can be better embedded, and going on an improvement culture, I guess, kind of trying to get that embedded within the organization as well. So we've got a repeatable way of doing that analysis that we, as you all know, we use time and time again. So that would be the example that I would put forward for that.
Thank you. Carl, Dom, anything else to add?
Yeah, I think there's a great example where I think you touched on AI being a real buzzword.
Have you just made up a word then?
Up a word.
Very good.
And thanks, Jane. And it is in a sense, but I think some firms are coming at it from how can I implement AI in my business? Not what's the problem statement, and is AI something that can help address that problem statement?
Yeah.
And so we've done lots of good work, particularly in the complaint space, to say, actually, where are your pinch points? Are you doing root cause well? Are you able to interrogate big data sets to understand patterns? Are you able to get to the root cause more quickly? And then looking at the solutions that are available to achieve that, of which AI may be one. And we come at it very much from what's the business problem you're trying to resolve, not how can I find a problem that AI can then resolve. And I think that's really important in them using AI in the right way.
Definitely. And Dom, any final words from you?
Just, I guess I'd play the kind of culture card in this regard. So I think actually a lot of the ways that we use language is really important here. So I think when we traditionally look at things like process, as is probably the easiest example, always thinking about what does the business need? So what is it that we're trying to achieve? What do we need from the customer or the advisor, whatever it is, in this circumstance, and flipping that on its head, start actually the conversation by talking about the customer need. What are they trying to achieve? What are you facilitating for them on their behalf? And I think actually changing the way that we use that language and changing that conversation means that the actual output is more reflective of the customer need and ultimately the service that's being provided.
Yeah. That's a really good point, and a really good point to end on, I think. So thank you all very much for joining me. great to hear your views on customer service, and obviously still loads of opportunity for providers to improve on that, and hopefully Consumer Duty is the real catalyst for that. So if you want any more information about us, Simplify Consulting, please visit our website, simplifyconsulting.co.uk, and thank you very much for joining us.